Hi friends, it's Becky, and I have got another beading and art. It's basically watercolor and jewelry making, where I take a color palette that has inspired me, and I make jewelry in that same color palette, and then I make art in that same color palette. And since it is the Christmas season, and since I have so many lovely red and green beads from the Softflex Ugly Sweater kit, I pulled out some of my faves to make some earrings with. And I also got a little sample of beam paint. It's not a sample, it's actually like a 3-color palette from Beam Paints in my sketch box. And it has red and green in it as well. And I thought I would just do a little watercolor painting and make some earrings, and it would be a lovely time. Now, the way it usually works when I do this type of video is because there's a part of the watercolor painting experience where you gotta let it dry. You just don't want to mess with it. If you do, you'll screw everything up. So you gotta let it dry. So what I like to do is start the watercolor painting, and then when that part is drying, that's when I'll go in and do my jewelry making. And then once the jewelry making is done, I'll go back into the watercolor painting and finish it up, put in my finishing touches, add my little bits of extra pizzazz and that sort of thing. So that's how we're going to do this project. Just to go over some of my tools for the painting, I'm going to be using a round 8. This is the Just Chung Craftimo round 8, and a round 3. This is from Artegria. So I'm going to be using these for my painting. I'm going to be using the Beam Paints. I have a watercolor sketchbook. I thought I'd try this out. I just got it. It's from Fumui. But it's supposed to be 100% cotton, so we'll see how that works for it. And I may also be grabbing some of this gold paint from this Beam palette that I just got and unboxed today. I'll put a link to my unboxing and swatching video in the description below if you'd like to watch me swatch out these paints. It's part of my palette swatch project where I am swatching out all the colors of every single palette that I own. So that's something that I've done there. For the jewelry making on my tools, I've got my handy dandy wire working tools, some chain nose pliers, some round nose pliers, and some flush cutters. That's mostly what I'm going to be working with while I'm doing the earring making. I've grabbed a bunch of wire because I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with some of these and which wires I'm going to want, but I've got some 22 gauge silver wire, I've got some 20 gauge gold wire, and I've got a little bit of 18 gauge gold wire. We'll see whether that is one of the ones that I'm going to be working with. And then I've got some head pins in various different colors of wire, and that's what I'm going to be using for my tools and little different things. I've got some ear wires that I went ahead and made ahead of time, and I thought when I got to this that I would just go ahead and go through and do all of the earrings, because that'll just give me extra drying time. Or no, I'll do one earring each and then check on the painting. And then if we still have time, then I'll do the second earring. But for the most part, when I do these, some folks like having me do multiple, like the longer videos, and this is going to be a long video, so you'll want to grab something to drink, put your feet up, and relax a little bit with me while we do our painting. Alright, so I'm going to just pick this up and move it aside because I'm going to, as I said, start the painting part first. And so let me just set this over here. Swap places with my sketchbook and bring over my paint. Now, I saw a little tutorial. It was a super quick, like 5-minute tutorial for poinsettias today, and that's partially what has inspired me for this. So I'm going to be doing just a poinsettia with some green leaves and then like a little pot underneath it. Gonna try to remember how the person did it when I watched the little tutorial. It was like a sped up version of a tutorial where it just did like do this and then it jumped to the next one. It was on like Instagram, so it was not a very long thing. Anyway, I'm going to be taking this turtle belly and making some long petals around a center circle. Because the poinsettias are layered. Ooh, this turdy belly looks great like this. That's the color of paint that I'm using. I'm going to do my second layer. I'm going to do it sort of behind it, but I'm going to try to leave white spaces between my next petal and these ones. Like that. Sure, it's okay if some parts of it touch. And then one more layer of red behind that, and then I can start on some leaves. I'm not the greatest at leaving white spaces, but I can sure try. One of the best things about watercolor is it really helps you give up the idea of perfection, because it can be so unpredictable and sometimes unforgiving. So you just kind of have to let it be what it wants to be. turn this so that I can have a better angle for some of these lower ones, because sometimes that's my problem, is I do great from one direction and not so great from another one. You know what I mean? Okay, two more of these big long ones. And I'll start painting some leaves in. I was going to use this pine color for the leaves. Maybe add a little bit of the red into the green just to kind of darken it up a little bit, tone it down so it's not super bright green. Darken it up. Alright, so far, so floral. Alright, let's grab some of this pine color. Yeah, no, I'm not going to darken this up. I'm just going to go for it with a big old leaf right here behind this. We're going to go off the page with it. And I'm leaving the white space so it doesn't bleed into it. And another leaf here. We'll come in and paint some veins in our leaves and on our petals and stuff after. Let's do another leaf here, I think. Some of these leaves are pretty big on these plants. And then a couple over here on this side. Let's do a big one down here. And to be honest, a double inspiration for this comes from one of the charms that came in the Softflex box as well. It's very poinsettia-y. You know what I mean. I'll just be coming off the page with this one as well. And how about another leaf back here? I may be overdoing it with the leaves, but I don't know. The green part of the leafy greens and all that in Christmas foliage is one of my favorite things. And let's do one more back here too. Maybe, no, let's just do one more back here. I don't want to overdo it too much. There we go. And now what color pot should we go for? A nice bright red pot, or maybe a bright blue pot. Just making sort of a rounded bottom to give it a little extra shape. This is Robin's Egg Blue. Grab a teensy bit of this ultramarine here. Just kind of drop it in along the side and bottom for shading. I'm gonna let that sit and settle and percolate. And then when we come back, we'll do more details. So far, I may add some more leaves along the back side. I don't know. I will figure it out. I'm feeling it like it's a little bare back there, but also I don't want it to just be, yeah, I'm probably going to add more leaves. Yeah, no, let's add more leaves. Let's do that. Just like with jewelry, if you are painting and you decide you want to do something different, you are totally within your rights to change your mind. And one more leaf. Okay, I feel better about that. That filled up that space a little bit better. I'm definitely going to let this dry because I'm going to be brushing on some lines with my paint, and if I brush them on while it's still damp, they will spread out, and I don't want to do that, so I'm going to set these guys aside over here, move this out of the way, bring back my beadboard. This is the beauty of having a beadboard that I can pick up and move, so that I can move it out of the way for one project and then move it back in here to start the next. So let's start with an easy one. I'm going to make a pair of earrings using these little Santa beads, these ceramic Santa beads, standing on top of a sparkly green guy right there, and that's going to be super easy. I'm just going to be making a link, and for this, if you don't have craft wire, you can use an eye pin. Like this is how I make a simple loop with my wire. I just bend it around my round nose pliers like that, and then just bend it back a little bit in order to center that. And it's basically like an eye pin, except it's got a whole lot more over here. So let's go ahead and snip off a little bit there. And maybe I'll make a second one the same length. Should be using my double flush cutters so I don't have to cut bits every time. These are double flush cutters. They'll cut both sides of the wire flush for me so I don't have to nibble away at the end of the wire to keep making it more flush when I use it. My friend Heather sent those to me and I use them. See, there we go. Both sides are flush. And you know, I think I need to move some of these guys out of the way so that we can concentrate just on what we're doing here. So I've got my little basically eye pins, and I'm going to set my Santa on it like that. And then I'm going to want to make another loop on the top with this craft wire. It's very malleable. It is a soft craft wire, so it's easy for me to just use my finger to bend it over the top of this little Santa. If you're using like a commercial head pen, it might be a tougher wire for you to bend, and so you definitely would want to use a chain nose pliers for that. So I'm just going to cut it right here. That is about 1 centimeter from where I bent it. Not 1 centimeter. Sorry. No, that is 1 centimeter. I was right. 1 centimeter. A quarter of an inch from where I cut it. And I measure with my finger because the width of my finger against where the bead is to right here where my nail is, that's about 1 centimeter. So it really works for me. Let me show you how you would do that with the chain nose pliers, since I had just discussed it with you. So top of the Santa, I'm just going to grab right here next to it and just tip that over so it bends almost in a 90-degree angle. And I'm going to cut this again at the same length and try not to lose my round nose pliers in the under desk area. That's where everything goes. It's like a black hole. And then you just roll your loop up after you've done that. And the reason you make a little bend in it is to center your loop. That's the only reason that you do it. And when I do it from the end of the wire, I make my loop first and then my bend second. And when I do it once a bead is on there, I make my bend first and my loop second. Alright, so now I've got little links with my Santa. I'm going to open up this lower loop of my link, and it looks like I am making both of these at the same time for these two. And then I'm just going to put it, I swung it open like you do with a jump ring, my chain nose pliers, and I'm just going to put that on there like that, and then close it. Let's show that swinging open again. You're going to just grip one side of it, the side closest to the opening, and just twist it. You don't have to pull it open, just twist it to the side like that. That's how you get it on there. And then swing it closed. So now I've got my Santa on there, and I can go ahead and swing open my ear wire, put my Santa on top of that, and I've got my Santa and bauble earrings. Super easy, super quick, super festive, great to wear to a Christmas party. There we go. like that. All right, so that's the first one. Next one is going to be pretty easy. I'm just going to be stacking some beads on some head pins for this one and making more simple loops. So let me grab out a silver head pin, and I may as well just do both of them here. Alright, now these beaded beads, they have some pretty large holes in them. So I'm going to have right here at the bottom of the head pin one of these smaller red rondelles, and that's just going to stop the head pin from going through my beaded bead. And then I'm going to put my squiggle on top, right there, and another beaded bead right on top of that. So it's just taking some really, really fun beads and stacking them onto a head pin and then rolling this up I like using the round nose pliers for this because I can slide along to adjust depending on how much wire I have left for that. So that is one. It's fairly festive, but also something that you could probably wear at other times of the year with the silver and red together. It's not necessarily a Christmas earring, but it is festive and fun, and I love these little squiggly guys. They are hilarious. Alright, since I've got this right here, let's do the second one. And you could also use like a one-step looper to make these simple loops if you wanted to, and I'm just doing the simple loop the same way I did the other one, cutting off all except for 1 centimeter or 1/4 of an inch of wire and then rolling it up. A lot of these are going to involve simple loops. Spoiler alert. That's earrings number 2. Alright, we've got that. You know, I've just decided that I want to do 3 layers in my painting. So before I move on to the next earrings, I'm just going to grab this back over here, and I'm going to add some yellow into the center of this. It is dry, by the way. And so I'm just going to pull this yellow color. Actually, do I want this yellow or do I want this pumpkin? Because the pumpkin pulls a lot more gold than orange. And I'm just going to paint the center of that. Yeah, maybe I do want yellow. And then go between my white spaces with this yellow. I want to lay down some color first to have underneath the gold that I'm going to be painting on top of it, because the gold will give me some shimmer, but I want some color underneath that. to have this have some time to dry as well. And the reason I want the gold outlining my leaves is because of this. It's got like the gold bits on it. That's one of my inspirations for the art anyway. Maybe this will work, maybe it won't. I will be adding some shimmer after this has a chance to dry. I know that actual poinsettias do not have a gold outline around them, but this is not a realistic painting. I don't do realistic paintings. But also, like, how well does this paint glaze, though? Alright, I think I got them all outlined. Nope, not all of them. This bit over here. There we go. I am sure I've missed a spot, but I'm going to go ahead and set this aside and let that dry now. my little pot. And let's keep going. Let's go back to this one because, again, these are my big old inspiration for that one. And I just love these little rhinestones in here. So I just want to keep the sparkle going with these rhinestoney beads. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did with my Santas. And I'm just going to make a link with my beading, with my craft wire. Where's my 20 gauge? There it is. And this is a trick that I use to make sure that I don't use up too much wire and I don't have too much extra, is I will go ahead and string the beads that I'm going to be making the link with onto my wire before I do any sort of cutting. And I'm using these little tiny bead caps on either side of these just to add a little more gilt. Not like Catholic gilt, but like it's gilding the lily gilt. Just there's going to be like a small segment of you who are going to get that and find it absolutely hilarious. You're welcome. Alright. There we go. So I've got that bent, and then I'm going to bend it back again to make that loop like I did with the other. And then here's the fun part. I'll push my bead up against there, And then about 1 finger's width down from the bottom of that bead, that's where I'm going to make my cut. Again, I'm going to use my double flush cutters so I don't have to worry about flush cutting the end again. And do the same thing with this one. Make my initial loop. Bend that back. Come on, friend. Push that up and 1 finger width down. Remember to cut the wire and not your finger. It's an important distinction. And just like with the other, I'm going to take it in my fingers and then push with my finger to bend it over the side. This is craft wire, so it is easy to bend. And then I'm going to measure 1 centimeter away and roll that sucker up. May not have mentioned how much fun I have making earrings. Some of you who have watched my videos for a while and have seen the ones where I just make a whole bunch of earrings before. This is very much like those. You'll know how much I like it. And I've spoken before during my April challenge about how much earring making actually means to me, as far as like being able to center myself by doing fairly simple, creative, quick creative things. You start your day right. I used to make a pair of earrings every day. I'd have my cup of coffee, make my pair of earrings, and then I'd wear it for the rest of the day, and it would be like no matter what else happened that day, at least one thing got done right. But it was a really great way for me to, clear my mind, to settle things, for me to have make a little bit of order out of the chaos of my life by putting together some beads in a pretty way. And then, I would have little dangly sparklies that I could wear. And so I still have a huge fondness for earring making. In April, I do a challenge where I make a pair of earrings every day. Even if it's simple earrings like this, or sometimes I do more complicated earrings. This is a video that I just felt like doing simple earrings in though, so I'm not doing a lot of complicated ones. And I hope that that's okay, because especially this time of year with the holiday season, and did I put that on the right way? No, I don't believe I did. Let's turn that around. Or, no, I know what's wrong. It's the way that the loops are facing. They are parallel to each other, so if I turn it this way, the loop disappears on both the top and the bottom. I'm going to want my loops to be perpendicular instead of parallel. So I'm going to grab this loop in this pair of pliers, and this loop in this pair of pliers. So they're like matched up there. And I'm just going to twist them so they go crosswise. That's all I'm going to do. And now, when I put my ear wire through, see, I should have planned that better, but I didn't. And that's okay, because I can fix it. It's a super easy fix. If it's not facing the right way, either turn it around or fix the orientation of your loops. I'm going to do that to the other one so I don't forget later. There we go. Didn't know why I started with them together. That was a really awkward way for me to hold my pliers, friends. I'm sorry about that. While I'm making the rest of these, I'm just going to start moistening this gold paint a little bit, just dropping some water on it. Because sometimes you have to let, with the sparkly metallic paint, sometimes you need to let them awaken and reactivate a little bit before you can do more. So there's 3 pairs of earrings. So far, so fun. Alright, one of the other things that came in the subscription box, or not subscription, was some of these. Actually, no, these were not in the, these were extras that I bought from the site. They had these little ceramic bauble beads, and so I was gonna just make a little hook and actually just hang it directly from there. Super simple. Just grab a head pin or two, make a loop, and hang it from the hook. That'll be fun. Like this. Again, when you've got really fun little beads like this, it makes earring making so easy. Sometimes it doesn't need to be complicated. You can have a great pair of earrings with just a very simple combination of wires and beads. Sometimes more is more, sometimes less is more. And these are really cute and understated. There's something that, you know, might not be noticed at first glance, but as people are talking to you, they might see them swinging around in your ears and they'll be like, oh my gosh, those are Christmas ornaments. How cute is that? And it has a little loop just like an ornament does. Love these. But yeah, these were a separate purchase. They weren't in, there were some that came in the kit, but I also bought some separately from the Softflex site because they were so cute. Are they not cute? Look at how adorable they are. I suppose I could have painted holly berries. That would have given me the red and green as well, but I was feeling poinsettias today. So that's where we ended up. And there we go. Perfect to hang from a teeny tiny tree or your ears. One or the other. Oh, that's not wide enough. There we go. I didn't twist it wide enough so it wouldn't go around with that. And that's another pair of earrings. I love those. And I've got more of these. They actually have Christmas trees on them. But I'm going to add a couple of extra things to it. So I'm going to make these into some dangles, just like I did with this, using the head pins. And then I'm going to make these into some links that are connected to the head pins. So it's like just building up from start to finish. I usually will start easy and then add a little bit of difficulty as we go on when I do these sorts of projects. So this is just combining 2 of the ones that we've just done, making my little dangle. Whew. And then making a link. So I'm actually gonna grab the wire. Let's make some links and then we'll put them all together. I like these little stripy red balls. And then I grabbed a little fire polish green bead to go on top, just for some added color, a little more of a splash to make it explicitly Christmassy, as though the Christmas tree ornaments wouldn't do that on their own. Alright, 1 finger width down. Let's do a little roll. And go back. So I've been mostly using the 20 gauge wire for these, which is fine. I was sort of expecting that. But I'm going to use some 18 gauge wire for one of my other projects, and I might do 22 for another one. So, yeah. I enjoy having a variety of wires that I can use and choose from. Alright. So now this will spin, so it does not matter which way my loops face when I do that. Whereas like the other ones here, they have a very clear front and back to them. I think most of the other ones didn't have a specific way that they needed to face on them either. So for this, I can go ahead and just pinch my beads, bend that over, pinch my beads, bend that over, and I think I've almost got it cut to the right length. There we go. Do enjoy link making. And now let's open up this loop on the bottom of this one. Pop our Christmas tree ornament on there. Now it gives you a little more jangle in your dangle when you have that extra link in there. And more ear wires. All right, 2 more pairs of earrings, and then we could get back to my little painting. I've moved these out of the screen so that we're not confusing the I've got some opaque, like forest green briolets here. More of these red stripy beads. One of these, like, I don't know what to call it actually, but it's just got all of these little rhinestones in it, a rhinestoney bead. And I've got a daisy spacer as well. And this is the one that I think I'm going to be using the 22 gauge wire for, just because with the briolette wrapping, I like to use a smaller gauge wire for that. I could go down to 24, but I'm going to stick with 20, and I'm just warming up the wire with my fingers. And as I do it, if I bend it along the edge of my finger and then bend it back the other way, just as a curve, it works out a lot of kinks in the wire and straightens it out. For this, I'm going to cut off about 4 or 5 inches. And then about 2 inches from the end, I'm going to make a 90-degree turn. Well, it's just about 90 degrees. I can adjust it. It doesn't have to be 90 degrees. I'm going to put that wire, this shorter part, through the end of the briolette there. And I'm going to adjust my angle by pressing this against the briolette. And then I'm going to come in with my pliers and just give it a little tweak right up here next to the top of that briolette. Just a little bend right in that wire. It doesn't have to be a big bend. And then on the other side, I'm going to push this up and around till it crosses over. Grab I actually have some other pliers that are thinner widthwise that I like to hold this with. These are my tweezer nose pliers so that I can hold the wire where it crosses without worrying about crushing that briolette. And then I'm just going to go around a couple of times with this wire and give that a snip. And then I'm going to put on this little donut, the round ball, and our sparkly guy. I'm going to make another loop up here at the top, and this is going to be a wrapped loop. So for this wrapped loop, I'm going to pinch the wire right above the bead, bend it over the top to do a little bend, and the reason I bend over the wire is so that there's a little bit of space here between where my loop will be and the bead, so that I can wrap it with my wire. So I'm going to do a little loop on the top, and my pliers are in the way when it's like this, so I just rotate it like that to bring the wire all the way around. And I'm going to go twice around, and then I'm going to bring it in front of my bead, and then around this other bead until it is all the way down. I should have wrapped that brio. You know what? This is my let's make mistakes and figure out a better way to do it for the second one. I will remake this afterwards, but let's do the second one. But let's do it better. Instead of the 5 inches, I'm going to pull off a full, like, 8 or 9 inches of wire. I'm going to do the same thing that I did with that one. But I'm just going to end up with a lot more wire at the end of it for wrapping this brio. Once again, we can always change our minds whenever we want. Alright. That same 90-degree bend. Go through the brio. on the long side, adjust our angle, and then make a little bend in the wire so that it's pointing straight up. On the other side, we bring it across so it crosses. And I hold the wire and do a couple of wraps. It doesn't need to be a lot of wraps. It could just be one or two, because we're going to be wrapping around it later. Right? With all this wire. Let me stack on my guys. Yeah, I'm going to fix that later. I can do that off camera. That's not the order that I wanted it to be in. I was getting ahead of myself. Sometimes I do that. All right. One, two, and then wrap around, and wrap around, and begin wrapping down around the brio. This is what I wanted to do with the other. Okay. Then once I've got it wrapped to my satisfaction, I'm going to cut off my excess and tuck in that edge. And now, I'm just going to adjust my loop here. Like that. Now I can attach my ear wires. We'll call that one good. Again, I will fix the other one so I can actually wrap that. I just did not cut off enough wire. Alright, earring number, wait, how many did I do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is earring number 6. Alright, one more, earring number 7. Just adding some more, another drop of water on that to make sure it's good. And this one I'm going to actually grab some 18 gauge wire for. Ooh, that's a little bendy on there. I'm going to cut off the bent part because I want this to be straight as it can be. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm warming up my wire before I get it started. And for this I'm going to cut off about 4 or 5 inches. While it's still warm, I'm going to take one of these faceted coin beads and put it in here. And I don't want it to go so far that it's coming out the end. I want it to come short of that. So that is about the spot that I'm going to make about a 90-degree, maybe a little bit more than 90-degree bend in this wire. Not too much. And I'm going to put that back in this coin bead. And while this is still nice and warm, and I'm going to keep warming it with my fingers as I go, I'm going to pull this around the outside. Stay in here. The outside of this. Come on guys, warm up. Until I come all the way past this first part here. just going to hold on to it for just a sec while it cools down. And I'm going to just cut this here. And then use my round nose pliers to roll this up and make a loop. I have just made a little frame. Around this coin bead, like that. And now I'm going to take this other coin bead, the one that has these flat sides and the faceting on the edges, and it looks like I've got myself a little piece of wire that I can use. To make myself a tiny link. I could do this with 20 gauge wire too, but I just had this extra wire right there ready to go. Okay, so let's go ahead and make a little link for this. And for this I'm going to want my loops to be perpendicular, not parallel. So I'm just going to start the way I mean to go on by bending it in sort of the opposite or the other direction from where the first one was. And I'm just going to straighten these out, my loops, make sure they are good and parallel, perpendicular, not parallel, the other one. Then I'm going to attach this loop to that loop. It is a little bit easier to open the simple loops if you use chain nose pliers than using round nose pliers. You can with round nose pliers, but it's a lot harder, friends. Trust me, it's a lot harder. Oop, and I don't have an ear wire for that one. So let's just make one real quick. Got about 2.5 inches of wire here. And I'm just going to take the end of it. I'm using 22 gauge wire. I use 22 gauge for my ear wires because 20 gauge hurts my ears. My ear holes are just not big enough for them. I could stretch my ear holes by wearing ear wires made with 20 gauge wire, but I'd rather not. There we go. So I used the smallest loop on my bed milking pliers to make this loop. And then once that was made, I didn't straighten it out or center it. I just turned it to face away from the loop that I was about to use, which is the second largest loop on my bed milking pliers. And then after that was done, I did a little bit of a bend about the same part of the wire that's, you know, or the same length of the wire from the curb on this side from where that loop is. And that makes me a little ear wire. And then to work harden it and to straighten it out in case it's bent weird, I give it a little smush with my chain nose pliers. You can also use flat nose pliers. Anything that doesn't have teeth on the inside that will flatten it out for you. You could also use a nylon hammer and a bench block to flatten it out, or a wire whacker. And there you go. It's like a cherry drop right there with that. Okay, now I will make the second earrings for these ones after this video. You'll see it made. You'll see them in the photo. I'll post a photo to the Softflex VIB group, as well as the other. These are our earrings that I have made right here. I'm just going to bring this guy back. Just going to move these out of the way. Scooch out just a little bit. So I'm going to bring this guy back and start painting with my gold paint. So it is all activated now. I'm just going to paint over that yellow with the gold to give me some shimmer and shine. This gold paint. And I don't know if the camera is picking it up. I will pick it up and kind of tip it to see if the light shines the right way on it for it to show for y'all. I could alternatively have just pulled out like a paint marker or something, an acrylic paint marker to do this, but I want to do it with these paints. I'm running out of. I just unboxed these today and swatched them. I think a lot of times with these shimmery metallic paints, you really need sunlight to see all of the shimmer, which is really hard to get when it is late night beading with Becky. lines. I think I've got most of my edges. There we go. That's the shot. Do you see that glimmer? Do you see that shine? That's what I wanted. That's absolutely what I wanted. I'm going to add just a little bit of a shadow underneath here. Just going to use this sort of gray color. It is also a shimmery metallic color. So it's going to take a minute for it to wake up. But I'm just going to paint a little line underneath this pot here. Like that. And then rinse my brush and spread that out. Like that. And that gives us a little bit of a shadow for my little potted poinsettia to stay on the ground. Alright, I'll have links to beam paint, I'll have links to Softflex, I'll have links to the little notebook that I did this with. I think it's going to be a great little sketching notebook. I had no problems with this paper at all. I haven't tried lifting any color from it or overworking it, so I can't guarantee that it's like super great paper, but it acts like cotton paper. So I'm not mad about it. I don't know how well it holds up to tape. I have not tested that yet. I just wanted to see how it would do with this. And here are my earring designs that I made. Some of them we will definitely make the second one after this video is over. But I thought that they were absolutely a delight to make. It was a lovely, lovely way to spend my time waiting for my paint to dry. So much fun. And this was such a great way for me to get to play with some of my new paints, as well as make some of these earrings that have been calling to me from that box, because every time I opened it, I saw the baubles and I saw the charms, and I just kept seeing earrings in my head. And so I just wanted to make a little earrings video. If you like what you see, hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit the, what's the word? Subscribe. It is late night. I also do have a playlist with my other beading and jewelry paintings and jewelry making things. I will put that in the description as well if you want to see some of the other ones that I've done in the past. And I'll also put a link to my swatching with these beam paints, because it was a really fun time to open them up, and I'm really quite pleased with them. They are sustainably made, handmade by a family-owned business in Canada, and they, you know, they use ethically sourced ingredients for these paints, like local tree saps for it. It's really fantastic, and it paints really well. Anyway, hope you had a great night, and I'll talk with you later. Happy beading.